Hello, hello,
Yes, 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 you're audible.
hello everyone. Good evening. I'm Chetna Sharma, representing Everest Vacuum, the brand of Everest Blower System Private Limited. Welcoming you all once again on the webinar being organized on how we can make the most efficient use of the dry screw vacuum pump, which is a future of vacuum technology. On our past webinar, we explained you how we can increase the efficiency of our vacuum system and how we can reduce our operational cost by explaining you the rule of 2030. On this webinar, we are going to take you to how we can operate and maintain our dry vacuum pumps, making it efficient use. So I would like to explain you the content which we will explain you on this webinar. So the content will be, first we will explain you about what is Everest, and then we will explain you about the rule of 2030. As we explained before, like how we can increase our efficiency. Then we will explain you about the pump build-up and unique features which we are like which Everest is offering you. Then we will explain you about right commissioning practices, which is the most important thing. And then we will move towards what we have to do our best to our vacuum pumps and what we don't have to do. Then we will move forward towards maintenance, which is the most important part of every industry, of every product, but how we maintain and maintain the best practice and what the common mistake we do. Then we will explain you the importance of spare parts availability at site on time. Then maintenance program like AMC and comprehensive plans. Then we will, like before, we will explain you by one case study, like how you can save your operational cost and how you can increase your efficiency by saving money. Last but not the least, like always, there will be a Q&A session and general interaction. And I would like to request everyone, like please put your question on a Q&A session, and we will try to cover every question as per time permit us. So now I would like to request Mr. Rakesh Ahuja, who is the GM sales of Everest Vacuum. Mr. Rakesh, he will explain you about Everest. Mr. Rakesh.
Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you once again. And it's so nice to see quite a few of you having taken time out from your daily work schedules to come in and participate with us here. So at Everest, we have a mission 555. And what is this mission? So our mission is to provide innovative engineering solutions in the entire range of vacuum by having state-of-the-art technology, optimized design, excellence in R&D, and manufacturing with thrust on training and development of our employees. Continuously expanding our operations, markets, and possibilities of collaboration to service our customers. So what is the mission 555? The mission is to move the needle from the current turnover that we have of 50 CR to 500 CR in the next 5 years' time. And therefore, the mission 555. Chetna? So to achieve the mission 555 at Everest, we have created a technical services and consultancy group. What does that group do? So, like I said, it has 4 objectives: selection of ideal vacuum pump and oblique or pump of choice in according to the process. So basically optimizing the correct product for the right application, calculate and optimize the operational cost, right sizing of the vacuum pump for best results in terms of productivity as well as cycle time, decide the desired operating vacuum levels for process to get best yield, oblique product quality and operational costs. So now that's what's important for all of you to understand is that TSG, if used efficiently, can support all your key initiatives for vacuum requirements. both in terms of selection as well as ensuring a higher level of productivity and throughput. Chetna? So what all does Everest Vacuum do and what is our offerings? We are into the manufacture. We are the only manufacturers of dry screw vacuum pumps in India. Of course, we have our own in-house manufacturing for mechanical vacuum boosters. We do design as well as manufacturing of customized industrial engineered vacuum systems, which includes liquid ring based semi-dry vacuum systems, also includes oil ring based vacuum systems. We also have the portfolio of rotary vane vacuum pumps as well as the configured engineered systems along with other peripherals. We are also into low temperature thermal evaporation, which is the zero liquid discharge or the mechanical vapor recompression. And by usage of these offerings, what is our promise to our customers? We ensure clean, reliable, and sustainable vacuum, improved product yield, deeper and consistent vacuum, cost and space saving by right sizing, reduced batch cycle times, and reduced operational cost. Once again, welcome to all of you. Back to you, Chetna.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rakesh, for briefing us about the Everest. Now I would like to request Mr. Vikas, who is the manager of engineering department. He will explain you about what is the best way to operate and maintain our vacuum system to get the best efficiency. And so I would like to request Mr. Vikas.
Thanks, Chetna. So I welcome you all once again into this session regarding the operation and maintenance of dry screw vacuum pumps. So I'll basically start with what we can expect out of this product. So there are multiple benefits, multiple features of this product, of the dry screw vacuum pump. It doesn't use any steam and there is no requirement for it. Thereby it leads to 80% of the power saving. There is no effluent generation in these dry screw vacuum pumps. They provide a consistent and reliable vacuum levels. And by optimized sizings, we can enhance the productivity up to 20%. And of course, it is a clean, green, and environmentally sustainable vacuum solution. And we do supply all these systems with plug and play compact skid mounted units. So at Everest, we do have one 20-30 rule, which basically means we believe that by right focus and approach in most of the cases, we can reduce the operating cost by 20% and more while benchmarking the existing conditions. And likewise, we can increase the productivity by 30% and more, benchmarking the existing conditions. And this has been proven at many sites, at our customer locations, in some of your plants as well. So this is the 20-30 rule that we believe in. So coming to the webinar part, as this is about the dry screw vacuum pump, I would like to briefly start off with what a dry screw vacuum pump actually is. So as the name suggests, it is a completely dry pump. There is no oil and no water contamination with the process vapors. Thereby, it is called as the dry screw vacuum pumps. As opposed to the traditional technologies known as wet technologies, therein the process vapors got in contact with the with either oil or water, thereby contaminating the process. So it is drastically different from that technology that was wet. This is completely dry, and thereby it is completely extremely environment friendly. So as mentioned that these are completely dry pumps, what is the advantage? That these pumps can directly handle the process vapors and they can be collected at the discharge by condenser, by having condensation at the discharge. And obviously it is better and much more easier to have condensation at the discharge. So we can condense the process vapors entering into the pump, and this leads to a very efficient vapor recovery management system. and ultimately creates an environment-friendly vacuum ecosystem. So as these pumps are completely dry, there is no sealing fluid inside it. So these offer for clean and oil-free vacuum levels. Now this pump is the latest technology available in the market. These have very low power consumption, which leads to a lower overall cost of ownership. And this makes our endeavor a success, that we can have the vacuum utility as a reality. So the hybrid combined variable pitch, this is the latest third generation that Everest is supplying. This is primarily a combination of three different pitches that are primary, secondary, and the variable pitch. So now coming to the operation and maintenance part, there are certain markings and stickers that are available on the pump. So I just wanted to brief you all what all are the markings and stickers available on the pump. So as you can see, it is a dry screw vacuum pump. There are certain stickers engraved on it, like for cooling water inlet, as it is having a cooling water jacket to dissipate the heat. So from one end towards the discharge, there is a cooling water inlet, and towards the suction, that water comes out, cooling water out. Likewise, it is both sides oil lubricated, so there are oil filling ports, and the oil grade is also mentioned, what grade of oil is to be filled into. Then there are certain cautionary signs that there is a hot surface. Then for our CX series, anti-corrosive series, there is a temperature control valve. So we can also get in use with the temperature control if required in certain applications. Then there are certain warning signs to check the quantity and color of the oil, and same needs to be replaced once it is dirty or after 6 months. Coming to the safety instructions, it is well known that we do not need to operate the pump without reading the operation and maintenance manual. So this is all on the part of markings and stickers. Now once the system is supplied, it goes into the plant wherein it is installed and the commissioning comes into the play. Commissioning is a very critical activity. We have a full-fledged team of our engineers who commission the systems pan-India and abroad. And it is very important, reason being they identify any areas that needs fine-tuning to achieve the optimum results. Now, why is it important? Because if it is commissioned, the system is commissioned, so the customer representatives get trained on machines and they get aware about the vacuum systems. Basically, every system that we design, it is having an inbuilt PLC logic, and it has to be run as per the standard operating procedure. So during the commissioning, our engineers, when they visit the site, they get in touch with the customer representatives, they train them, and SOP, what has to be followed, it gets conveyed to them. So that is important. So they get to know about the maintenance schedules, operational standard operating procedures, user gets friendly with the system, and they adhere to the SOP by the operators. And most important, customer vendor interaction gets available at the personal level, which is important for the success of the any equipment. So this is proven. We have commissioned many systems, and the thing that has come out is a well-commissioned system, if it is being run in accordance to the operational SOP, it can deliver up to 3 times more service on an average before maintenance. So that much criticality is there of the commissioning. So we should get our systems commissioned, and standard operating procedures should be adhered to. So what all are the modules that we need to maintain for the operation? The key modules include healthy electrical power supply. It should be having a 3-phase power supply, healthy. And then nitrogen needs to be available. There are 2 modules, inlet and seal purge modules. Instrument air for the butterfly valves or any other electropneumatic valves available in the system. Then there is solvent flushing to flush out of the pump from any contaminants. Gas ballast to run the pump hot and to avoid condensation inside the pump. And there is a cooling water jacket module to dissipate the heat as well. So these all modules need to be maintained to function the system properly. And lastly, there are certain utilities required like cooling water or chilling water for the condensers or any traps built in into the system. Now, installation instruction, this is basically the complete overview of how the system looks like, what all precautions are to be followed. As you can see, this is a dry screw vacuum pump, and then there is a post condenser. As the condenser is at the discharge of the pump, we call it as a post condenser. In some cases, it can even be at the inlet of the dry screw vacuum pumps. In that case, we would call it as a pre-condenser. Then it is a receiver which collects the condensate. There is a solvent tank which contains the flushing agent to flush out the pump. So, as we all know, basically dry vacuum pumping systems or any vacuum pumping systems, they are basically meant to pump out the non-condensables along with the saturated vapor loads. Now, dry pumps having an advantage of having ability to collect the condensate at the discharge. Still, we need to ensure that the minimal amount of carryover only enters into the vacuum pump. So to ensure that, we have mentioned that we need to install any catch pot oblique trap prior to the pump to reduce the carryover load on the pump. And basic fundamental is that its line size should be equal or greater to the pump suction line size. So there is an isolation valve at the inlet of our system. This isolates our vacuum pumping system from the client's process. This comes into play during the start cycle, during the shutdown cycle as well, and during the intermittent flushings also. Then there is a vacuum transmitter. So there are various modules that I'll be covering later on. It can either be only for the display purpose or it can be used to control the level of vacuums. Then there are cooling water inlet and outlet lines, complete tubing, having flow switch or TCB as per the module supplied. This is a post condenser. Then there is a gas ballast module to prevent condensation inside the pump, receiver to collect the condensate. And one important thing is that this receiver should be drained periodically so that then there is a local operating station mounted on the skid itself having three basic push buttons, that is start, stop and emergency. At many cases we have seen that the clients have been operating the systems via emergency button. They have been stopping the system using this emergency button, which is highly not recommended. Reason being, there are certain modules pre-fit into the PLC like start cycle, shutdown cycle. So once if it is directly shut down, that stop cycle won't operate and the pump won't be cleaned. So there is a caution that this emergency switch has to be only used in case of actual emergency. Otherwise, it may seriously lead to damage of the pump. So during the startup, only start button has to be pressed on. It will automatically initiate warm-up cycle inbuilt into the logic. Same is for the stop cycle as well. Only the stop button needs to be pressed. There is a automatic cycle that will come into play. And another important thing is that solvent selection is very critical. We should be selecting such a solvent for flushing purpose that is capable of dissolving the contaminants oblique process carryover entering into the pump. So these are the basic installation instructions, how the setup should be followed and how it looks like. So these are the modules that I was discussing in the last slide. This is also mentioned in our standard catalogs. This is a typical P&I diagram on the left. And these are the various additional modules that Everest comes into the loop. So the various possibilities to add on are as there can be cyclone traps to trap any particles prior to their entrance into the pump. Then there could be inlet filter housings depending upon the micron ratings. It could be either 1 micron, 5 microns. So it depends what kind of a process are we into, what are the particle sizes that will enter into our pump. So there can be possibility of having inlet pre-condensers. In case of supervax, having booster in combination with screw pumps. It could be possible that we need to trap the vapors intermediate. So there is a possibility of having intermediate condenser module as well. Then there are filter traps. Then there are certain traps with demister, depending upon the process. Then as shown in the last slide, there can be post condensers. If there is no condensation available at discharge, then there is a standard discharge silencer available. Then there are other modules like N2 seal and inlet, which I will be covering later on in brief, in detail. And then there is a solvent flushing module, gas blast module. All these modules will be covered in later on slides in depth. Then for CX series, that is our anti-corrosive series, we have temperature control valves. In our standard series peak coated pumps, it is having flow switch. It makes the fail-proof system that the pump doesn't run dry. And then there are vacuum transmitters available with either only display or with proportional integral derivative to run the vacuum pump as per the vacuum levels required. Then there is a startup cycle, shutdown cycle. All these are pre-fed into the PLC depending upon the application. Intermittent flushing cycle as well. Then there is a one local push button station, that is, we call at Everest as remote pendant. It is in flame-proof construction for hazardous areas. Then there can be certain electrical control panels for safe areas, which has got 3 different modes of communication, that is Ethernet, Modbus, and Profibus. Then there is an option of having float level switch in the solvent tank, so as to make the system fail-proof. There is always availability of solvent in the solvent tank. Then there can be some Borden gauges present at the suction of vacuum system in certain configurations. For electrical motors, it is by default IE2 in flame-proof construction and IE3 in non-flame-proof construction, premium efficiency motors. Then there are ATEX certified systems, CE certified systems, bypass arrangements to reduce the vapor load on the machines, and electrical pneumatic isolation valve to separate our vacuum pumping system from the client's process. Then there are availability of flexible expansion joints, bellows, the receivers, temperature element in the cooling water jacket to automatically trip off or cut off the pump in case the temperature exceeds the preset levels. Then there are rotometers and variable frequency drives available. So these all are the add-on modules that Everest has. So for checklist before startup of the pump, what is the startup cycle which we are discussing? It is before starting, we need to check for the oil level and quality. We need to ensure that the pump rotates freely. There is the availability of cooling water, nitrogen, and instrument air. Thereafter, having availability of all these 5 points, we can start the pump. Then comes into play the programmable logic controller, wherein the program has pre-fed that will automatically start, and there will be a 30 minutes warm-up cycle. The isolation will be closed and the pump will start operation. And why this warm-up is done? It ensures that the pump reaches to an optimum temperature level. Because if it is too cold, there is a very likely possibility that condensation would take place inside the pump. So this warm-up cycle for 30 minutes ensures that the pump comes to an optimum temperature. It is neither too cold nor too hot. And certainly these parameters may vary process to process. In some cases, the warm-up cycle required could be less. Some cases it could be more. So now comes the checklist during operation. During operation of these machineries, we need to check for any abnormal sound, for any vibration, for high oil temperature, high discharge temperature. Is condensation, abnormal condensation taking place at the discharge? Check for the overcurrent. And if there is a need of solvent for intermittent flushing, is it available or not? So these points needs to be ensured during the operation of the dry screw vacuum pump. So now comes another important cycle that we call as shutdown cycle. This comes into play when we stop the pump. So during the shutdown, we need to ensure that there is the availability of flushing solvent. Nitrogen gas is available. There is no abnormality. And as already mentioned, that we need not press the emergency button while pressing down. Only the stop button has to be pressed. Now I'll just brief you up what this shutdown cycle is about, how it looks like. So this is the representation. On the x-axis, you can see the minutes. The cycle is of complete 20 minutes. So that means for 20 minutes, this stop cycle will come into the play. Now you can see here, from 0 to 2 minutes, we are inserting nitrogen into the pump. The reason being, we want to break the levels of vacuum, because all the solvents that we would be using for solvent flushing, they would be very volatile. Their natural tendency would be to vaporize under such high levels of vacuum that this dry screw vacuum pump creates. So for these 2 minutes, it breaks the vacuum. Therein, we bring in the solvent flushing for another 8 minutes. That solvent along with the nitrogen keeps on entering into the pump. It cleans out the pump of any contaminants. Therein, we stop the solvent. Nitrogen still continues. Purpose being, we want to make the pump completely dry from any solvent traces. So in the end, for the last 5 minutes, when there is nitrogen purge has also been stopped, there is only the dry run of the machine. This ensures that the pump is now completely cleaned out of any contaminants, any solvent traces, and it is fit for use when it is again brought into the operation. So this is what the average shutdown cycle looks like and what it does. So another activity that Everest has come up with is we have standardized our products in terms of systems as well. Super screws, when we call super screws as the dry screw vacuum pumps having various add-on modules, like I have mentioned in the last slides. And SuperVac is a combination of dry screw vacuum pump and the booster. So we have standardized various products, and this looks like the standardized product, and their key advantages are that it has become the catalog product. It is readily available. There is commonality of parts across the various modules. Certain accessories are common throughout the standardized activities, standardized models. And in terms of energy efficiency, also we have standardized by default IE2 motors for flame-proof and IE3 in standard. So this is one rating better than what we used to supply in the standard ratings. Then coming to the material of construction, by default, it has gotten to be SS316. And it is future ready. Anytime any upgradation is possible, we can have the add-on modules added into it if required. Module upgradation is possible over there. Then we have, across the standardized products, we have standardized modular accessories as well. And for customers, it is the shortest delivery time that is possible with these products. And we have certain systems which have been pre-designed for drying and distillation applications. So if it is required, there are condensers predefined, and for drying applications, filters are predefined and added into the standardized activity as well. All the accessories like condensers, filters, they have been standardized, they are readily available, and there's an anytime option available to add on these modules into the system. Now coming to the maintenance parts, the best practices and the most common mistakes, these are the golden points for the healthier pump operation. It is solvent flushing, N2 seal purge, N2 inlet purge, gas ballast, and cooling water module. So I'll be covering all these modules one by one because they are very, very critical for the health of the machinery. So first, it is the solvent flushing module and its importance. So this is how the solvent flushing modules looks like. There is one tank having a level indicator. Then there is a filling port from wherein you can pour the solvent into it. Then there is one drain, small drain provided to clean the tank in case required. And this is the major operation. It is an actuated solenoid valve which connects directly to the pump inlet, from where the solvent enters into the dry screw vacuum pump to clean it out. So what is its importance? So as mentioned, solvent flushing after the batch, it is very effective, and it is the only method available, the best method available to clean out the pump of any contamination, any buildup, any blockage of the process material. Now what happens into the process when we are into certain applications? The carryover vapor, the product along with the solvents will come up into the dry screw vacuum pump along with the non-condensable load as well. So it will slowly and gradually start accumulating inside the pump. And if it is not cleaned after certain operation, if it is a continuous process after certain hours, or into the batch application after certain batches, the accumulation would be so much that it will ultimately lead to the seizure of the pump. So that is why we need to clean out of the pump, and it is recommended to be used with inlet purge for most effectiveness. Reason I already mentioned, an inlet purge is basically a nitrogen purge to break away the vacuum, because if the vacuum is too high, that purpose of liquid cleaning won't be done. So this is done to break away the vacuum levels and to ensure the effectiveness of the this solvent flushing agent. Another critical parameter is the selection of proper flushing solvent. It should be having the capability to dissolve the contaminants. It should be miscible. And a correct installation of solvent flushing module, it can enhance the pump's life multi-fold. And the solvent flushing module is connected towards the shutdown cycle. At shutdown, this module is automatically interlocked via PLC programming, and it comes into the play the moment you stop the pump. So a solvent flushing module, it consists of a flushing tank, and then this solenoid, then there is an option available of float level indicator, then drain, and it is all pre-programmed to clean out the pump towards the end of the cycle. So done right, it has some of the most promising results. Another module very effective for corrosive environments is the N2 seal purge. The module looks like this. This is the inlet for the nitrogen gas. Then there is a pressure regulating valve to regulate the pressure, because there is certain operating pressure that is required to operate. And then there is again actuated solenoid valve, and this goes to the pump. There is a NRV in this line to provide a unidirectional flow. There should be backflow. So that is why the NRV non-return valve has been installed over here. So what does this gas seal purge do? It sustains positive pressure during operation of the mechanical seal, and it ensures that the product carryover, process carryover that comes into the pump, that doesn't gets into the contact, that doesn't comes into the mechanical seal, and it protects the process contamination and the contamination of oil at the end. So it is very critical if the process carryover is stopped from entering into the oil chamber, we are enhancing the life of the overall product, the life of the seals, bearings, oil, everything will be under control. So what does it do? It extends the life of the mechanical seal by creating a positive inert atmosphere around it. And it consists of a pressure regulating valve, non-return valve, and a solenoid valve, which is interlocked into the PLC, programmed logic controller, for the automatic operation. Now the required flow is anywhere between 5 to 15 LPM for our 4 models, that is 150, 300, 400 and 800 meter cube per hour dry screw vacuum pumps. And the pressure required is 0.3 to 0.5 kg per centimeter square gauge. At plants, the pressure is much higher. That is why we have installed a pressure regulating valve over here. And another feature for this module is that this can be retrofitted as a standalone on the old installed pumps available at the site also. Because it is very much possible that the certain modules might have been damaged after certain years of running. So this seal purge module can be retrofitted as a standalone unit in those older supplies as well. So seal purge, it is very effective in highly corrosive atmospheres. Then the another module is N2 inlet purge. There are two variants of it, intermittent and during the shutdown cycle. This is the basic nitrogen inlet purge module. There is a pressure regulating valve and a solenoid operating valve. So with solvent flushing, it ensures that it breaks the level of vacuum, and it ensures that the solvent which we are using for cleaning, it remains in the liquid phase only during the high vacuum. So it breaks away the vacuum, it lets the solvent enter into the liquid form and cleans away the pump. Now the solvent is used to clear and flush out the process buildup accumulation from the pump internals. So this cycle can either be done periodically, and it is known as intermittent certain days, but the process, this carryover keeps on accumulating into the pump, so that needs to be cleaned periodically, and that part is played via the intermittent flushing during the operation itself. So what is it? It is basically a short burst of gas for a couple of minutes at a flow rate of 300 LPM and 0.5 kg gauge pressure. The module consists of a pressure regulating valve and a solenoid operating valve interlocked through a PLC. And the another variant of it comes into play when the pump is stopped. That time it ensures that the pump is completely dry. There are no solvent traces also left into it. This is the purpose. It removes the solvent left over in the pump after the solvent flushing. Another module that Everest comes up with the gas ballast module. As you can see in the photograph, in this diagram, there are stages from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. From stage 1, the vapors come into the pump, then it passes through the certain stages and finally gets vent out from the point number 5. So during the stage from 1 to 5, there is continuous compression happening inside the pump. So at point 4, what Everest does is we purge a certain amount of gas into the pump so as the vapors which have entered into the pump, they don't convert into the liquid. Because if there is no purge of gas at stage 4, what would happen is this line from 4, it will go to 5 dash. So these vapors will start converting into liquid, and we need to stop this because we do not want the compression happening inside the dry screw vacuum pumps, as liquid is incompressible and it will lead to the damage to the pumps, and if the liquid is not went out properly, it can create back pressure and damage the pump. So at point 4, we purge a small amount of gas. It increases the temperature and keeps the vapor phase in the vapor phase itself. So this is what the gas ballast module looks like. From the pump discharge, we have one needle valve which controls the amount of gas to be purged into the pump body. So wherever there is a possibility of condensation, we need to ensure that we come up with the gas ballast module. It will dilute the condensable vapors. In such cases, air, nitrogen, or process gas. Now this again depends on the process, what needs to be inserted depending upon the application. It can be an input for the gas ballast, and as per the process requirement, to overcompress the vapors at the point wherein condensation is just about to take place, we inject the small amount of gas. It increases the temperature and ensures that the vapors doesn't convert into the liquid. So now referring to this diagram at stage 4 of this screw profile towards the discharge, sudden gas is injected, which increases the compression, generates extra heat, and prevents the process vapor condensation within the pump. So this is the basic purpose of gas blast, to avoid condensation inside the pump. Now this is one case study on the field that how the right service improves upon the mean time between failures and reduces operational cost. So the case study involves the operation of a dry screw vacuum pump for 8 hours a day and for a complete year. The total operating hours come out to be 2880 hours. Now on the left scale, this side is where there is no preventive maintenance done. On this side, it is done, the preventive maintenance has been taken place. So the downtime is very high if there is no preventive maintenance, because then in that case, and if SOP is not followed, there can be certain serious breakdowns, and the breakdowns can go up to 3 weeks. So that is 168 hours of breakdown, because that involves the in-house repairing and the transport as well. Whereas for the preventive maintenance, it is just 4 days per year, that is 32 hours. It is on-site preventive maintenance that Everest provides. So you can see the percentage of uptime and downtime. Downtime in case of preventive maintenance is only 1.1%. And the investment, I would like to call it, the preventive maintenance cost is just 64,000. And whereas the production loss without preventive maintenance is 3,36,000. So there is a drastic saving, and we can expect this what we deliver. Downtime has been decreased by up to 80%, and maintenance cost saving is up by 60%. The pre-requirements include adherence to the standard operating procedure by the operators and availability of spares at the site before visit of preventive maintenance technician/engineer. So this case study completely makes us understand the importance of the preventive maintenance. So this is very critical for the success of any machinery available in the market. So we need to have preventive maintenance in the right place. Now these are the maintenance programs that Everest has. There is one annual maintenance contract wherein we provide 6 visits in a complete year. That includes 4 regular periodic maintenance visits and 2 emergency visits. Now the tasks that Everest does during these visits are: we check for the clearances, we check for the oil condition, replace if it is required. Then there is a checkup for any abnormal sound, vibration. We also check the equipments, the instruments, like the various modules, nitrogen seal, nitrogen inlet. Then there are instrument air modules, solvent flushing solenoids. All these are checked thoroughly by our engineers. Then if there are filters, then they are cleaned. They are checked whether they can be reused or they need to be replaced. Then repairs of screw pump if it is required. And finally, the performance is checked and the customer is satisfied by providing the vacuum levels and the current limits and the vibration limits within the control. The another program that Everest has is the comprehensive maintenance contract. This is basically the inclusion of consumable spares into the annual maintenance contract. Other parameters remain same. The tasks handled are all same. The only change is we have got the consumable spares included in this contract. Now these are the recommended spare part list and change frequency for the first 6 months from the commissioning. What all is required is preventive maintenance checkup is required. Then lubrication oil top up and change is required as per the condition of the oil. Then o-ring at suction needs to be checked into and needs to be replaced if required. For year 1 and year 2, what is additional for year 1, the lip seal set comes on if it is required. For year 2, it is bearings and timing gears and mechanical seal if it is required. So as we all understand, and the maintenance guys would very easily understand it, timely maintenance and preventive health checkup is a must for any healthy equipment. And at Everest, we fully understand its importance, and we have aligned ourselves with the following things to ensure that the machines are properly maintained. And for that, to achieve all these parameters, we have off-the-shelf standard periodic spare kit bundles available, ready stock for hassle-free purchase. Then there are special comprehensive maintenance contracts to deliver maximum uptime, and they improve the efficiency throughout its life cycle. Then there are our team of experts available regionally. They can be contacted at any time, and they bring you the peace of mind. And lastly, we need to buy only the genuine spares to avoid any warranty clauses and inferior performance. These points need to be taken care of, that we go in only for the genuine OEM spares, and we do have them readily available with us, and they should be purchased from us only, because there might be availability of fake spares in the market, but ultimately it will lead to major damage in the future. Now coming to the dry screw vacuum pump, the evolution over the last 10 years, as you can see, we started from Gen 1 and now we are currently into the Generation 3. So Generation 1 dry screw vacuum pumps were constant pitch dry screw vacuum pumps. The size of the pitch was constant throughout from the suction to discharge, and for comparison purpose, we have taken one 300 meter cube per hour pump. It used to operate with 15 horsepower motor. And coming to the Generation 3, that connected power has come down to 10 HP. So it is altogether 30% more power efficient. Now, over the period of time from Gen 1, there was PTFE coating, which slowly and gradually got converted and evolved to PEEK coating. Then there are certain series available with Everest for Gen 3 PEEK coating, nickel plus PEEK coating, then clean applications and non-coated pumps as well. Coming to Generation 1 pumps, they were side discharge pumps, Gen 2 as well. Now from Gen 3, they have come out to be bottom discharge pump. So there was many issues in Gen 1, Gen 2 pumps of pump blockage at the discharge, which led to their failure. Now we have ensured that the discharge remains free. That has been done directly towards the bottom under gravity flow. So this has been the transition over the last 10 years. And now we are currently into the Gen 3 hybrid dry screw vacuum pumps, which are 30% more power efficient and better adhesion and abrasion resistance as well. The new series that Everest has come up with is the ENP, non-coated pumps, wherein the MOC for the screws and the rotors and the casing is alloy steel. They are bottom discharge pump. And the sealing, I'll be covering later on in detail in the next slide. We'll see in detail about the sealing as well. So this is the super screw sealing arrangement. This is the suction end and this is the discharge end. So at the and towards the discharge, there is the double lip seal along with the mechanical seal. And finally, towards the drive end, there is a oil seal on the slip sleeve. So this is the basic sealing structure of the dry screw vacuum pumps. And this ensures that the oil level from both the ends, drive and non-drive end, doesn't get contaminated with the process. So this sealing, this functioning is very important for the success of the machinery. This is the cut section view, how the dry screw pump looks like internally. This is the cooling water jacket. These are the screws. This is the casing. This is the suction end having bearings and double lip seals. This is the discharge, bearings, double lip seals and the mechanical seal. And finally, towards the drive end, there is the oil seal. Now in exploded view, you can see this is the suction end and this goes into the casing and this is towards the discharge end. This is the exploded view for the dry screw vacuum pump. Now coming to the vacuum pump inspection schedule, this is already provided in the operation and maintenance manual for the dry screw vacuum pump, but still we need to take care of all these small points because these gets missed into the field. So that is why I again mentioned over here, what is the vacuum pump inspection schedule? There are certain parameters which need to be maintained daily, others on monthly basis, some on quarterly, 6 monthly and yearly basis. So daily we need to ensure, we need to check what is the current being drawn by the pump. Is it within limits? Is the rotation correct? Is the suction and discharge pressure within limits? Is there any abnormal noise? Temperatures, cooling water leakages, oil level gauge, all these need to be checked on the daily basis. Coupling alignment needs to be checked monthly. Oil level needs to be monitored monthly. Lubricant color needs to be checked. Then on quarterly basis, we need to check the suction and discharge piping. Is there any accumulated dirt or scale that needs to be cleaned? For piping and utility, it needs to be inspected 6 monthly. And for yearly, we need to check the pump casing internals and screws, mechanical seal, gear, and other parts. So this is the inspection schedule that we need to follow for the healthy pump operation. Now this is another parameter that gets neglected at the site is the coupling mounting. Sometimes what happens, we have a healthy dry screw vacuum pump, but there is certain mistake in mounting the coupling which leads to its failure. So at Everest we have taper lock bush couplings and we install, and it is very easy to install. That taper lock bush is directly inserted and then it is screws are located on the shaft, they are tightened, and it is very easy to mount the coupling. It is basically a error-free operation, but still what we need to ensure is the maximum gap between the coupling and flanges, it shouldn't exceed 3 mm. This is the basic requisite. And then we need to clamp the grub screws, and we need to use the feeler gauges to measure the gap and any misalignment. This is critical, that has been mentioned, the usage of feeler gauges, not any scale or anything, because we are talking into 3 mm into microns. So we need to have the particular instruments available with us. Then these are the coupling misalignments. It could be either axial misalignment, radial or angular. So what is permitted is axial misalignment permitted is 0.4 mm, radially it is 0.9 and angular 1 degree. So what can be the probable defects if it is misaligned? Rubber material will be damaged, there could be excessive vibration, coupling can damage, there can be excessive noise, and it can even lead to shaft bending and machine breakdown ultimately. So that much is the criticality of the coupling mounting, so we need to take care of this. Then oil level and condition monitoring. Now oil is being used for the lubrication of gears, bearings, for mechanical seal film and heat dissipation. Now with oil there can be two conditions, either the oil level could be too low or too high. Now if it is low, it can lead to the seizure of the gears and bearings, and mechanical seal phase can damage. And if the oil level is high, oil temperature would get elevated and it can cause high gear noise, and it can affect various other components in the drive end and non-drive end. So oil condition needs to be checked visually. It should be transparent, and if it is black, it shows that the oil has deteriorated and it is time to change the oil. The level to be maintained is half the side class. So these are our different dry screw vacuum pump modules available on your screen, and the quantity of oil required and the grade. For standard peak coated pumps, it is T46, and for anti-corrosive series, nickel peak coated pumps and nickel, it is S4R68. So this particular grade has to be followed because it is a mineral oil and it is a synthetic oil. Now, how to control the contaminants? As we have been discussing that we need to avoid the contamination entry into the vacuum pumps. So how do we do it? There could be the process vapors entering into the pump and their condensation inside the pump. So how do we need to avoid it? We need to ensure certain gas blast or dilution techniques, which is basically the hot pumping that we discussed in the gas blast module. We need to ensure that the temperature is such that condensation cannot take place. The temperature to be maintained is above the dew point temperature. So that needs to be ensured into the dry screw vacuum pump. Now, another problem that arises comes from dust and particulate matter. There are certain processes wherein these contaminants, these particles would enter into the dry screw vacuum pumps. So we need to ensure that we have got certain traps, certain filters in position so that they does not directly enter into the dry screw vacuum pump. And third is the dust from corrosion. It is basically the proper selection of the material of construction, because if it is not compatible in certain applications like mild steel or SS304 is not compatible, then we need to go in for a higher grade of material. We need to check whether it's compatible or not. So accordingly, the material of construction has to be selected to avoid the dust from corrosion. Now, there are certain inline filters provided in our vacuum systems to enhance its life. So how it is to be cleaned and replaced, we have covered in this slide. This is how the contaminated filter looks like. It has got the lot of powder deposition on its outer and inner periphery. And after cleaning, it looks like this. So if the pump is equipped with inlet filter, it should be removed for cleaning. Otherwise, it would lead to the drop in the pumping capacity and vacuum, which will lead to trouble into the process. So how is it to be cleaned? We need to disconnect the pump inlet from the process. We need to remove the inlet filter, and we need to clean it either with water or whatever it is miscible with, and then with clean dry air, and then we can again reconnect it to the process. Next is the solvent flushing. As we have throughout the webinar, we have been discussing that how critical is solvent flushing. The objective is that it prevents blockage of pump due to material buildup, accumulation inside the pump. So it eliminates possibilities of accumulation of process material after stoppage. It is very critical that after the process has been completed, we flush out the pump, we clean out the pump of any contamination. Otherwise, it can lead to the seizure of the pump and serious damages to the various components available in the dry screw vacuum pump. It can even lead to peel off of the coating and damage to the major components as well. So solvent flushing during pump operation, the quantity required is 10 liters. It again depends on the process. And we need to ensure that the discharge is free, because if the liquid is not able to vent out, then it will again create the problem. And inlet purge has to be used with solvent to break the level of vacuum. Thereafter, the solvent flushing cycle has to be started. And we need to ensure that after the solvent flushing, the pump has been cleaned, so that we can very easily check by seeing the color of solvent at discharge. If it is still contaminated, we need to repeat the cycle. If everything is as per the plan, then pump is ready for the next operation. So this is the question: solvent flush, purge and dry run the pump before shutting it down. If not done, process vapors may condense inside the pump and can corrode and damage it. Now, another problem that we have encountered in the process industry is the pumps get stuck. There is lot of powder, lot of carryover accumulation inside the dry screw vacuum pump. Now you can see in this figure, there is accumulation of process material, and what it does is it eliminates the essential clearances and leads to the failure of pump. There's a lot of product buildup on this end plate. So how is, firstly, we need to ensure that such condition doesn't arise, because if this condition has arisen, it has already created a lot of damage to the pump. So in case we cannot control it, then we need to ensure that it is cleaned in this way. So in case the pump is full of solvent, don't start the pump, because it can bring serious damage to the pump or lead to an accident. Now, why this condition has arisen? Because carryover has come above the pump's handling capacity. Highly viscous material has entered into the pump, and most likely the pump solvent flushing has not been followed, or either the solvent was not miscible with the product. So how do we resolve it? If such condition arises, what do we need to do? In that case, we need to block the pump discharge with a blind flange. We need to pour the solvent into the suction port, fill it thoroughly and leave for 1 hour. Then we need to rotate the shaft with a chain wrench. If rotated, then drain the solvent by removing the discharge block. Now this is very critical that the shaft has to be rotated with a chain wrench. In industry, pipe wrench is being followed. So we do not need to have this rotation by a pipe wrench. This is a chain wrench and it doesn't have that much impact because otherwise the shaft can damage. And even if still the jamming doesn't go, then repeat step 1 to 4. And if it is severely damaged, then you need to contact us for our service support. And it is very critical, take caution not to apply excessive force as it may damage the pump shaft. Another cleaning operation is for the pump jacket. As we all know, these pumps, dry screw vacuum pumps, are having a cooling water jacket, which ensures that the heat is dissipated properly. There are no localized heat zones inside the pump casing, which ultimately leads to the increase in the life of components and coating. So the objective is to have a clean water jacket with minimal contaminants, dirt, so has to have efficient heat dissipation to maintain an accurate thermal profile. And how is it to be done? Turn off the cooling water supply and block the cooling water return line. Drain the water jacket by opening the ball valve. There are pre-fitted ball valves at the bottom. And first we need to open the top jacket of the pump. Then open the lower jacket thereafter. Clean the jacket by pouring water from the top and collect the same from the bottom. Now this needs to be done until and unless the clean water comes out. And once it is done, we can install again the lines inlet and outlet and connect it towards the process. We need to check for any leakages. And if it is not there, we inspect it and then pump can be handed over into the production. So 7 golden rules are there for the vacuum pump maintenance. Number 1 is very basic, that we need to go through the operation and maintenance manual and follow preventive checkups. Rule 2 is warm up the pump with inlet blocked. That is already covered in the previous slides, that we need to ensure that the pump gets to its optimum temperature prior to its connection with the client's process. And third is never block a pump outlet. It should be free from any blockages, because if there is back pressure, it can damage the pump. Rule 4 is to prevent the vacuum pumps from excessive vapor loads. Use an inlet cold trap oblique filter unit to protect the pump from corrosive vapors and contaminants. Then there is rule 5, that we need to have the gas ballast, wherein we are working with the condensable vapors, because we need to avoid condensation inside the dry screw vacuum pump. Then rule 6 is protect the pump from particulate with an inlet filter. Now this depends upon the micron rating, whatsoever is the particle size coming into the dry screw vacuum pumps. So it is process dependent. And rule 7 is run the pump after use with inlet closed to pour solvent contaminants before shutdown. Shutdown cycle has to be thoroughly followed. It is already pre-programmed for everyone's ease. Now only thing that is requested is that we do not press the emergency button and operate it via the stop button. So simply stated, take care of your vacuum pumps and they'll take care of you. Now, in line to our mission to continuously provide innovative engineering solutions, we have a group named as Technical Services Group. Everest Vacuum has initiated a program wherein we let you invite us to audit your process and provide to you our expert opinion on as to what would have been the most efficient way to conduct the process. So you can avail this facility. The link has been mentioned. And then there is another link to our technical bulletin as well. So thanks everyone. Hope the session has been useful for everyone's use, and it will ultimately lead to increase in the productivity and lesser downtime. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vikas, for this wonderful session. Definitely, it will be very beneficial for everyone. It's a very good knowledge. You give a very good knowledge about every step, every spare parts, and the rule you described, the 7 golden rules. And I want to add one more, that please follow all these rules, because all these rules will only work if you will follow all these things. And I would also like to request, please put your question in a Q&A session. So we will like explain you more deeply. If you have any kind of queries, or if you have any kind of suggestion, please type on a Q&A session.